What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast, where we share the success stories of veterans that have successfully unlaced the boots. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms and give us a follow on the gram at the Six Figure Vet.
I'm a
Let's
six-figure
go.
vet, self-made, self-built, didn't stop, dedicated, stay down till I came up, that's patience. Dreaming to goals to plans to execution.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast. Today's special guest is an extraordinary entrepreneur, mother, wife, mentor, corporate America killer, a proud Navy veteran who served as an aviation ordnance. If you ain't ordnance, you ain't shit, y'all. Okay. Her discipline, dedication, and leadership skills honed in the Navy have been instrumental in shaping her business acumen. Following her service, she was able to channel her passion and creativity into the entrepreneurial world, resulting in the birth of the Doughnut Effect. Now, the Doughnut Effect is not your ordinary donut shop. It's a mini donut boutique that has revolutionized the donut world with its unique and innovative approach to vegan mini donuts. Houston's very own Lakita Hampton Brooks, ladies and gentlemen. Lakita Hampton Brooks, y'all.
Lakita Hampton Brooks, I like it. It flows.
How are you feeling this morning, sis?
First and foremost, it took everything in me not to yell "ayolios" when you said aviation ordnanceman, but we'll keep it there.
Listen, it is such an honor to have you on the show. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very, very busy schedule and just come in, sharing your story and inspire other veterans. So, you were born and raised on the north side of Houston, Texas. Tell me a little bit about young Key. What was she like?
So yes, I am from Houston. I was born and raised here. Um, all north side. I moved to the south side when I was older, but it wasn't for me. I'm a north side girl at heart. So, young Key, she was very ambitious. I played sports, pretty much all around athlete. If there was a sport out there, I would try it. Some I was very good at, some I was not so great at, but we had to do it for off season. So I was willing to try it, give it, a shot and just see what I can do with it. Following high school, I went on to college. I played volleyball in college. I did a few what they call professional um co oh my god, what do you call it? It's like the collegiate sports, but you're not actually playing on the team. It's like the
I
rec
think I've heard of
sports.
that before. Is it
Yeah, I
like
can't
AAU almost,
but
but
it's
for
yeah,
college
but
level?
yes, but I can't there's a word for it, but I can't think of it. Anyway, I did there and I became the president of the team. So I got my real first taste of leading people there.
What was that
So
like?
it was different. It was different because on those type of teams, it's not like, one person is better than the other. It's voluntary. So everybody comes when they want to at their leisure. So it's really hard to motivate people who don't really have to be there. They just come because they love the sport. I was successful at it though because my team trusts me and they follow wherever I went. So but it was probably one of the most challenging things I did up to that point.
Yo, that sounds like the Navy. Like you have so many people that's just like, I'm here so I don't go to jail. I don't have to be ambitious. I'm here, okay?
Mhm.
And working with those type of people, it becomes really difficult because you have this ambitious, spirit and you want to go above and beyond, but you got people that you're in charge of leading, right? And they're just like, yo, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and that's show up, and that's all I got to do. So you've been dealing with that since before the military, sounds like.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So it's funny you said it about the military because I joined when I was a little older, right? So I joined after college. So I think I was what 23, 22, 23-ish or so. So I already had like life experience going into the military.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said before, I had a taste of, leading people before joining the military. So when I got into boot camp and I'm hearing all these children And when I say children, I mean like kids fresh out of high school. Like we even had a
Right.
girl who had barely turned 17 right before boot camp. So I'm looking at them like, oh, you're babies, and then all of a sudden I'm selected to be RPOC in boot camp.
And y'all, RPOC is like the HBIC in boot camp. Okay, that's like the go-to. That's a very, like, if it's the highest leadership role you can get as a recruit, you gonna be RPOC. Okay, that's what RPOC is for all my people that are not Navy veterans or active duty sailors right now. It's like the highest leadership that you can get while you are in boot camp training. So you have just kind of sounds like you've been predestined to be in a leadership role like your whole life.
Well, I always say I'm just thrown into stuff.
Right.
And I say thrown into it because a lot of times people see things in me that I don't see in myself. I hated every part of being RPOC in boot camp because my goal was to get there, keep my head down, do what I needed to do, and get out. But our petty officers and our chiefs and whoever came into our compartment saw other things in me. So i
Right.
i hated it, from beginning to end. But I did it, and I ended up enjoying it after I graduated.
I heard you mention, like, a lot, and for people that, aren't very familiar about the military, I say about a good 90% of people that are in the military join fresh out of high school. Like that's the norm. So what in your journey from being a college graduate up until, like, what happened there to make you say, okay, I'm about to join the military? What was the deciding factor of you joining the military?
After college, well, first off, my undergrad is in interior and architectural design, right? So I was eager to get into that market
Mm-hmm.
right after college. Well, I did what we call an externship, where you go and you actually get paid. It's different. It's a little different from an internship, but you get paid for actually working. And I worked for a construction company. Um, it was completely different from what we had been taught in college. I felt like I was bamboozled. Like, this was not what I thought it was going to be. It was very black and white, straight to the point. I hated it. Well, at the time, I had a really good friend who had joined the military, and just so happened she was home on leave. And we were just catching up, and she was like, you should actually join the military. You do very well. Me knowing you, blah, 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 blah. Gave me the entire spiel. Well, what she didn't tell me was that I should have been talking to an officer recruiter rather than an enlisted recruiter. But that's neither here nor there. So I was sold on being able to travel um, for free, not
Right.
underlying all the details that go with that, but let's just
Let's
high
not read
level.
the small print.
Yes, very high level. You get to travel for free. They'll pay for your college. You have a steady paycheck, and you're able to get free medical. All the highlights of the military.
Right.
So outside looking in, I don't like the situation that I'm in right now. I have a young daughter, but besides her, there's nothing else for me to really be here for. I decided to go and speak with the recruiter and join the military.
And that was my next question, because you telling me that you got this college degree, and I'm automatically like, bro, why weren't you automatically like talking to an officer? But y'all, they don't tell you about, like, that there's a difference. You just like, okay, I need to talk to a recruiter. There's different types of recruiters. There's, enlisted recruiters, and then there's officer recruiters. And the thing about recruiters is they have to meet quotas. So they sometimes are not always looking out for the best interest of the person. They like, yo, I'm on quotas this month, or I need this body, I need this number. She probably should be an officer, but if I send her to another recruiter, it won't count for me. So I'm just gonna sign her up because she came to me, and I'm gonna give her what she wants. How did being an AO come about? How did you end up
Oh,
choosing this job?
so let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
As you said, The recruiter never said anything about, me talking to an officer recruiter. You're absolutely right about that. I didn't even know there was another type of recruiter, right? So the entire time, I'm waiting in MEPS to go. There's that waiting period. That same friend was like, "Hey, maybe you should ask your recruiter about the officer candidate program." Well, I've already dedicated myself to leave on X date. So when I spoke with him, he's like, "Oh yeah, as soon as you go through boot camp, you can apply to be an officer, and they'll take you right away." Like, he made it seem like it was a piece of paper. You have to slide it across the desk, and automatically you're a officer. Complete BS. We all know that.
Yes. Far from the truth.
So when I went to do my test, my ASVAB and all that, I scored really high. And I was like, I don't need to pick a job, because he said as soon as I get through boot camp, I can become an officer. This is my mind frame the entire time. So the person in MUPS was like, "Well, you're okay with being undesignated?" I said, "Yes, I'm going to
Wow.
be an officer." Yes. So again, nobody is taking that time to be like, "Hey, listen, that's not how this works." You don't just become an officer like that. You don't just go from an enlisted to officer in a matter of hours. Okay? So
And
I
that was
became
your
a
impression. That's what you thought
that was
was
my
going.
impression the whole time. And
Wow.
I repeated it several times to different people, and they were just coming aside by me like, "Girl, I told you that," but no one corrected me. I became undesignated. I went through boot camp, and when it was time to pick your duty stations, because they give you that first look at boot camp, right? I was like,
Well,
"Oh,
see, it's
I don't."
not for other rates. I think that's just for undes.
I
When
believe probably for undes, yeah.
mm-hmm.
So again, I'm in this mind frame. Oh, that doesn't matter. I'm gonna be an officer. Well, fast forward, graduate boot camp, and we actually go to A school, because they did declare I was gonna be aviation. We go to A school in Florida. I'm undesignated. So we just go through the standard classes, and I was number 2 in the class or so. So they actually allow you to pick your duty station, right?
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, I want to go somewhere that I've never been before." But again, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to be an officer. Finally, um, the career advisor that was there was like, "Who told you that?" And I'm like, "My recruiter told me." "No, they told you a lie. You actually have to get to your duty station. You have to pick up a rate. You have to get fully qualified. And then you can, after being on your ship for 2 years, you can apply to be an officer."
Let me speak to the manager. Somebody get the manager on the phone.
I was like, "So when do I get a chance to go home again?" Because in my head, I'm going straight back to this guy. You bamboozled me.
Yeah.
But, it all happened for a reason. I got a chance to meet some really great people being undesignated. And that's how I chose being an AO. So when I first got to the greatest ship of all time, John C. Stennis,
Yes,
um,
sir.
I was a purple shirt. So I dealt with oil. That group of people was probably one of the best groups that I worked with my entire career. And luckily, my first look, they didn't have their rate open for me to choose. So I got a chance to do, several looks. But that third one, they were completely closed. So I had to choose to be an AL, or else I would have been a purple shirt.
Oh wow. So it was like either this or we're gonna force you into a rate.
Yep, because you get 3 looks. Yep. So that third one, if you don't choose one that's available on that third look, they will put you into whatever is available. And at that time, deck was available, and I'm just not that girl.
Where did entrepreneurship even come from? Because you went from architectural design to being in the military dealing with in ordinances like bombs and stuff, y'all. So you go from that to building bombs to entrepreneurship. Like where did that shift happen? How did you pivot into that? How did you pivot into entrepreneurship?
Well, the beginning, I got my first taste of being an entrepreneur my senior year of high school. So At that time, my mom growing up, she was a overnight nurse, and then my dad had his job. Well, the two split, and my mom lost her job. So here we were in this house, with these cars and everything else. And my mom had just bought me a car my senior year. And, being the kid that I am, I was like, okay, how can I help? What can I do? Well, one of the biggest expenses that I had back then was going to Bath and Body Works and buying as many candles as I could fit in my cart, because I would burn them religiously every day. I was burning like 2 and 3 candles just because I love, having the house smell good, and 1 or 2 candles, okay, that doesn't, make up a lot. But when you're buying cartfuls, back in the day,
Yes.
$100 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm talking 2006. So I was like,
Oh,
okay, well, I spend, $100 on candles. Maybe I can just start making my own. That way we can keep the money in house. I'm not spending this money, right?
okay.
Well, I started making my own candles, and my friends would come over and they would be like, hey, I'll pay you to make me a candle. And it went from making a candle to, hey, my mom's church is doing a fundraiser and they want to pay you $200-300 to make them some candles to resell or to make baskets out of.
Oh,
So it
wow.
started going that way. And then eventually I was just like, wait, I could actually make money doing these things. So I would make these large baskets of candles. Lord knows I did not know anything about pricing or whatever. I would just look at it and say, hey, this looks like it costs $50. I'll sell it to you for $50. And people were buying them without blinking their eyes.
Oh, wow. And you were in high school.
I'm in high school. So it got to the point where I was paying our mortgage and our car and car insurance. That's a lot of money. So I had all these people who were coming to me weekly, like, hey, we need 10 candles at a time. Or, this group needs this many. We need 100 candles for this, whatever. So I started doing it that way. Well, once I graduated, kind of passed the business to my mom, and I went on with life. I went to college. So that was my first experience with entrepreneurship. Okay. So going from that to, that's my first taste of entrepreneurship. As I told you before, then I had my first taste of leadership. Well, now I'm in the military.
Mhm.
And you know I'm leading these kids in boot camp, and then I get to my duty station. I'm not necessarily a leader because I got there as an airman, but I got there, started kicking rocks behind me. I became fully qualified in less than 3 months of being on the ship. So now everybody's looking at me like, who's this girl?
Right.
who is
Because
this
that's
who is
like
this
unheard
airman?
of.
Yeah, I had both my air and surface pins within being on the ship less than 3 months. Then they went from, okay, who is this airman, to, hey, we're gonna have you teaching these air and surface pin classes for the department. I don't know anything. I don't know these people. I'm just like, okay, sure, if that's what you need me to do. So now I'm being put back in this leadership role.
Mhm.
Okay. it That's been my entire career in the Navy. All right. So outside of the Navy, I started back making candles again.
And this is while
So
you were in the Navy or when you got out?
this is while I'm inside the Navy. So as you know, we were in Bremerton.
Yes.
So outside of work, there was really nothing else to do besides go hang out in Applebee's or go to Seattle.
Flip the
But you can only go to
clouds.
Seattle. Oh my God. You can only, go out so many times. So I'm like, okay, I need something to do with my free time besides workout. So I started back ordering candle supplies. And I was doing them while I was in the Navy. I reached back out to some of the people who I was selling to beforehand. They became customers again. People around Bremerton have started buying from me. So here we are again with the candle thing. This is my, my side hustle, quote unquote. But now I'm making more money than I'm making in the Navy.
If I recall correctly, these were wickless candles, right?
They were. So I
I
did both.
remember
I did
those.
I did the wooden wick and wickless. So the wickless ones we were able to actually bring onto the ship, and we can burn those with the candle burner because there was no open flame. So those were the ones that we had like in our birthings or for supply, because you guys actually had desks. Hoo-hoo. You could put them on your desk.
So if you
No
listen to
hay
the last
here.
if you listen to the last episode, I told y'all if you was supply, you are the plug. Your life is amazing on that ship. Okay. Um,
It was a
but
holiday every day for them.
and I remember you being on the ship and going on deployments with you, and you always had some type of hustle. You always had some type of hustle going on, whether you were selling hair, you were selling candles, and everything was of high quality. That's something that I always remember about you. Whenever you had a hustle going on, everything was of high quality. And whatever you were doing at that time, you were the plug for it. Like, if you need some good hair, listen, don't shop with nobody but Hampton. That's all you need to go to. If you need a candle, go. We're not going to the stores. Go to her candles smell good. They burn really, really. It takes a long time to burn. Like, everything that you had was of high quality.
I always look for that void to fill. Like, where is there a need? On deployment, where we were going, first of all, there were no black hairstylists and there were no black hair products or suppliers. So here we are. I'm in the birthing full of girls who are like, man, I ordered hair and it's taken 4 months for it to get here, or there's no braiding hair anywhere around here, or there would be braiders, but no braiding hair. There would be, stylists on the ship who could throw you a hairstyle together really quick, but they had no supplies. So
Hmm?
the only right thing to do was to become the supplier. So I would order things in bulk and I would use my plugs. I'm not going to give away them. But I had several lockers around the ship with supplies in it. And that's how we exchange things, and we would use our cat cards to exchange money. So it was no cash given. And yeah, I was the plug.
No lie. So how did you transition that into starting a business for yourself on the outside of the military?
So it was very easy. So as you can see, given my journey, I'm very fearless when it comes to, you know, anything really. I have the mentality of you only miss the shots that you don't take.
Mhm.
So once I completed my journey with the military and I came home, um, I was like, one thing I know for sure is that I want to remain an entrepreneur. I enjoy it. I get to do things at my own leisure and it's flexible. So, right before I got out the military, I said, you know what, in Houston, there's a gazillion nail salons, but what we did not have was any black owned nail salons. So I started doing my research and seeing, okay, what side could I put this on? What would it do well? What do I need? Where is the need? Like, I did all this extensive research until I came to the conclusion, okay, I'm ready to pull the gun. So I found a nail salon that was up for sale, and it was on the northeast side of Houston, where the income was pretty high. There was a mixture in the community as far as ethnicities. I said, okay, this is the place.
So this is real market research.
Oh yeah, it took me probably about a good 5 to 6 months of straight research before I decided to pull the gun.
So you made this decision while you were researching this while you were in the military.
Yes,
Oh wow. What was the
yes.
deciding factor for you to get out of the military?
As an AO, the nice way to put this, as a AO, a black AO, a black female AO, and then a black female educated AO,
Mhm.
those are all contributing factors to your experience in the military. Um,
Yes.
on the students, it's very male dominated, and at the time, it was predominantly white. So there were a hand. You can count how many AOs in our entire department. That's how few of us it was. And with that being said, we faced a lot of adversities. And personally, I went through some pretty traumatic things as an AO, as a female AO, and as a Black female educated AO. So
You would
I
think that
decided,
those things were like, oh, that's a bonus, but in certain environments within the military, it's like their strikes against you.
absolutely. These are things that cause unnecessary attention to you, and they bring unnecessary hate towards you. And this is not on at every base or on every ship. This was just my personal experience on the Stennis. And there were several situations to where I just made the decision, this is not going to be a 20-year career for me,
Mhm.
that I do better outside of the military on my own. So I decided to get out, which when I said I was getting out, that caused a whole nother uproar within our community. But I decided to leave.
What was that like when you decided, like, you know what? I ain't appreciated here. I'm taking my talents to South Beach, aka the civilian world, and you know, having that backlash. Like, what was that like? What was the adversities that you faced when you finally was like, you know what, bump it. I'm getting out. Was there any fear once that decision was made?
For me, there was no fear. As I said, I'm pretty fearless when it comes to a lot of things. So I prayed on it. I prayed on it for like my last 2 years in, and all I asked for was for God to guide my steps, and it kept pointing in the same direction of getting out. Well, me telling people that I was going to get out, or giving that notice that I was going to get out, the backlash came because, right before I got out, I found out my OCS package got picked up, which, the entire time from remember beginning when they said, hey, you can apply to be an officer and you're going to be an officer. Well, now I have this opportunity and I don't want it. So everybody's like, wait a minute, whoa, what's going on? Why are you not here? Like, why are you not staying? And I'm just giving a very generic answer. I want to go home, to the point where the CO himself said, okay, what is the issue? So there was it was a lot of backlash. And though, I gave him the real answers to a lot of people, I didn't ever want to be seen as the victim.
Right.
So I didn't give full details on what was going on. The people who were there knew what happened. And, the right people in place knew what happened. But for everyone else, it was just, Hampton decided to get out.
And that's the crazy thing, right? Being a Black female, educated female, successful female in the military, when things happen to us, it's almost like we're so resilient in the things that we face and the things that we are put through that we don't even want to, like, we don't even want no recognition for it. Like, I don't want no pat on the back for that. Let me just do it. Let me just leave gracefully. Right? And I think that alone we should shed more light on the things that you went through, within your military career, just because you're smart. Right? And just because you're a woman and just because you're Black. It was a Although you have been able to obtain so much success, so many great things outside, there's other Black smart women that are still in the military facing these same challenges, right? Um,
I know a lot of them.
yeah, it's crazy. They're
Yeah,
still,
I know a
and
lot of
it's
them.
like, and for us, that's why I feel like when a Black woman obtains success within the military, and this is not to take away a- against anybody else, but I'm definitely about to give Black women their flowers in the military. We are fighting so many battles from all different sides, and y'all, AO is not an easy rate. Like, So for you to have the reputation that you had being an AO and still having to fight these battles while you're making the department look good, it's crazy. Like it's insane.
Yeah. So I just want to pinpoint though. So when I say that, like the people that we work with, because you know we have this totem pole, right? So you have the upper chain of command, you have the lower chain of command.
Right.
I will not say that it was everybody on that chain of command, but there were definitely some branches of it that you were like, okay, this person should not be here. They are only here because of their rank and service, years in service. Other than that, there were people who were at the bottom with me who made the job amazing. They became family. You know, till this day, we all still reach out to each other. We all still help each other. We're a listening ear. But there were people at the higher training command that I wouldn't spit on if they were on fire.
How was that? How was it having all these leadership skills, being an excellent leader, being educated, having been somewhat successful running a business, quote unquote, in during your high school years? How was that working for people that that you could outperform, but they were in higher positions solely based off of being there longer than you? How was that?
So it was really hard for me. I can say that. Especially, being that, like I said, I have life experience coming into the military, right? So I'm already what they call stuck in my ways, meaning, I understand how this should work. I come to work, I do my job, I do what I'm supposed to do, I keep my head down, and, I go about my business. Well, we all know that that's not how it works in the military. It's
Right,
really
yeah.
hard to work for someone who you feel like is incompetent, especially
Very.
giving their role. So, you know, there were a lot of times where we would be like, okay, this first class doesn't have a clue what he's talking about when it comes to maintenance or whatever. So it would be teaching moments where myself, I've done it too, where I would get, the booklet itself and come over and say, hey, come read this with me. And I would ask rhetorical questions just so he can understand, like, oh, wait, I didn't tell you how to do that right. Or I said this wrong. Or yeah, you did. But I can't tell you that directly because of your ego.
It's a law in the 48 laws of power where you can't let the master know that you're smarter than them, I believe, or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah. And that was one of my downfalls because it was a lot of times where I did show that, not intentionally, but after you do that so many times, now they know, okay, Hampton knows what she's talking about, or Hampton obviously can comprehend this stuff. So now you're being put on another pedestal.
And that's another thing, like, so why I feel like so many people, it's hard for them when they get out, because you take in the military, it's like a step-by-step guide to success. Like, you don't have to think hard to be successful. You don't have to really think at all. You just literally the military
Play the
literally
game.
play the game. You hold somebody's hand, and it's like 1, 2, 3. Step left, step right, go up, go down, turn right, stay in this position for X amount of years, and bam, now you're a chief. Bam, now you're this. Even as it comes to being an officer, like, she told you straight up when you were in A school, like, yo, you go to your command, you get your qualifications. Once you get your qualifications, you stay there for 2 years, and then you submit this package, right? It's in a lot, and that's, you're giving your success. So when people get out of the military, it's just like, yo, I gotta figure that out on my own now. Like, what?
Hmm.
And
It's
and
so
it
funny how many people call me, that I worked for, while in the military, and when they're getting out, they'll reach out to me and say, "Hey, Hampton, I'm Brooks now, but hey, Hamp, um, I'm getting out. What do I do now? Like, how do I apply for this? Where do I go? Like, what should I do 60 days before I get out? What should I do a year before I get out? I want to start this business. How do I start?" But I worked for you in the military.
how did you take the experience from your leadership within the military, whether it be good or bad, right? And incorporate it into your own business as a CEO and founder of multiple successful companies since being out.
Pretty much, I looked at what I loved about some leaders, what I hated about some leaders, and how can I incorporate the two? Because you can't make everybody happy, right?
Right.
So I would look at the greater good. For example, with the nail salon, right out the door of opening my doors, all of a sudden I have all these people applying to work for me. I now have like 12 to 16 nail techs at any given time working under me. I'm not a nail tech myself. I just own the place.
Right.
So now I have to put someone else in control of these nail techs that actually do the work and know what they're doing and know what to look for, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now I have a location manager who manages the techs. So here we are again with this chain of command, right? I'm
Right.
now the senior chief. Now
Right.
I have my manager as my chief. And then she has to hire somebody under her who, when she's not available, that they go to. So then they have, the first class. So here we are in this hierarchy again, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing, when we would have training sessions, I made sure I held training sessions. One thing that I made sure to tell them is that, hey, these are not your children. They have a choice to be here. At any given point, they can walk out, and without them, there's no us because we have no nail techs and we have no customers. So we are to treat them as if they are us. How would we want to be treated? Obviously, we have SOPs and other things that set the standard. But anything that's outside of black and white, you make sure you come to me. You don't make detrimental decisions by yourself. I've done that with every business that I've held. I have employees now. And it's the same system. Hey, I'm giving you our standards here in black and white. Anything outside of this area that's in the gray, ask the question and we'll come to a determination together.
You
In the
said
military, it's I tell you what to do, you do it, you ask no questions. Regardless if you know it's right or wrong, you do exactly what I tell you to do, how I tell you to do it. I'm not gonna rule with the iron fist like that. Now, there's times where that's needed because you have people who will test you just because you seem like a nice person or they see that you're okay with this collaboration, right? But we have to
right.
still look at what's the greater good of this business. I
Right.
still run a business.
So you are CEO. You founded multiple companies since you've been out of the military, but I think something that is very dope about your story that I definitely want to shed light on, you still work,
I
which
do.
is bananas. You are a certified PM, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Certified
I yep.
PM.
I've added a couple of letters onto the back of my name.
Small flex, small flex, small flex.
So yes,
How
I still work. I still work.
and what industry are you currently in?
So I'm in the utility industry. I originally was in oil and gas, and then we switched over post pandemic to utility. So um, pretty much after I got out, I went back to school and I got another master's degree. For one, because the military paid for it. Why not?
Right.
So I got my supply chain master's degree and decided that I wanted to venture into being a project manager. I feel like I do that every day in my life anyway, so it would be easy. And I'm glad I made that decision because I would never go back. So this entire time that I've been founding these businesses and running these businesses, I also have my corporate America job that I also have. So you'll see me with my laptop in one hand and planning things on with my right hand.
How do you balance being a successful entrepreneur while still holding down a 9 to 5? Like, how do you balance that?
So it's all about planning and implementation, right? So I feel like
Of course,
anything,
project management.
yes, I feel like anything can happen as long as you plan well and you implement well. So for example, my day, every day at the end of the day, I plan for the next day, right? So I have a daily planner, I have a weekly planner, and I have a monthly planner. If it's not on that list, it does not happen. So,
Y'all, she
and
is
that's
not lying. When I asked her to do this podcast, she was like, "Okay, I'm going to send you my email. You need to put it on my planner." I'm
my,
like,
you know
"Oh
what,
my gosh."
my friends hate me when I say that. They'll say, "Hey, I have such and such coming up," and then they'll send just like a generic text, or they'll send just like a flyer by text, and I'm like, "Hey, if you don't mind, can you please send a calendar invite so I can put it on my calendar?" Because if it's not there, for me, it does not happen. I am a wife. I am a mom. My kids, I have two teenagers who play sports. And well, one plays sports and one does dance. And then I have a 3 year old on top of my businesses as well as my job. So I literally have to plan out my days. If it's not on there, it does not happen. And that includes hang out with my friends.
It sounds like project management is literally like your life. You project manage your life, you project manage in your corporate business, and you project manage your businesses. Speaking of your businesses, let's talk about this crazy successful donut business that you recently opened up. How did you and why did you get into the donut business? Like, what happened there?
Okay, so remember I said I always look at where's their need, where's that gap in the industry, right?
Right.
So there is obviously no shortage of donut companies here in Houston. But what they do not have, they don't have any vegan donut companies here in Houston. So right
Mm,
now, veganism is a huge thing everywhere, right? Everybody's trying to
yes.
find a healthier way to eat and still indulge. So
Yes.
plant-based snacks and desserts are kind of non-existent here in Houston, especially the really good ones. So I decided to form a donut company where you can still indulge in your plant-based life and still have the really, really good like southern desserts. So your peach cobbler, your banana pudding, your turtles, and not feel guilty because you're like, oh my god, not only does this have so many calories, but it's unhealthy for you. You really don't know what's in this stuff. I decided to go ahead and start that, and I tried it out a few places, and I saw that the demand is there. So I kicked it off, and here we are. Our trailer will actually be ready at the end of this week.
Amazing. Congratulations. Big ups to that.
Yay.
Now, I know that this is your second major business that you've opened up since you've been out of the military. Well, that
This
I
is my
know of.
third.
Third major business that you've opened up since separating from the military. I got to know, when you are opening up these businesses, what with and I know that you're a project manager, but what within it makes you be like, okay, I know that there's a need here, but what areas do you mainly focus on to make sure that these businesses are successful as they are? Because when I say everything that you touch literally turns to gold, that's what I mean. And there are so many veteran entrepreneurs out there that struggle. They have these grand ideas, they have these amazing um thoughts and plans, but they have trouble executing them or making them be successful. So what are your top one or two things that you really focus on to ensure the success of these businesses?
Well, you said the key word, right? Executing. So no business will actually come into fruition if you don't actually execute. There's things that need to happen before you execute, of course, like I said, research, market research, coming up with a plan, coming up with marketing, right? And then you execute. So I think the biggest problem when it comes to, young entrepreneurs or just new entrepreneurs is they have, like you said, these grand ideas, and they're like, oh my god, but how do I do it? So
Mhm.
it just remains an idea. The very first step that you should do, no matter what, is write it down. Because if you haven't written it down, you will forget it within the next couple minutes when you think about the next great idea, right? For me, for example, the nail salon, I don't just say, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and then just run out and do it. You have to prepare for it.
Right.
You have to do your due diligence to make sure that you're not just stepping out on faith, which we do a lot of times with no plan behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So if this does not take off like I thought it would, what do I do then? You don't just abandon the business. You figure out how to make it work. So, as I said before, execution. You have to know how to get to the execution point. Do not just jump out there and say, "Hey, I got this, this faith of a mustard seed, and
And that's
God
all I
got me."
need.
And God got me. You're gonna be highly disappointed, and my faith is there. I 100% have faith in God, but you have to know what to do to get there. I also don't want your listeners to think that, hey, she just started all these businesses and then they 100% became successful. That's not how this works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
you have to have a team. What You cannot do everything by yourself. Now, doing everything yourself to open, that's one thing, but you cannot maintain a successful business by yourself
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
at all. Especially, just normal growth, excuse me, just normal growth, day-to-day operations. You can't be the CEO, you can't be the manager, you can't be the janitor, you can't, for the nail salon, you can't be the nail tech too. There's no way possible that your business by itself can sustain with just one person.
That is
So
very true, and I think that's a lot, a big part. I think you hit two major things on the head. The six figure vet. The one of our slogans is from dreams to goals, goals to plans, and plans into execution. So the planning portion, I think when we have these major crazy ideas where we're just like so passionate about it and we have so much enthusiasm about it, we just like, all right, I'm a feel if I got it in my spirit or if I got it in my mind, it must be meant to be. So I'll just figure it out as I go, which there's nothing wrong with, like certain steps, like, okay, let me figure this out when I get there. But the market research, the planning, like all those things are detrimental to the success of your business. Like, of course they are. Of course they are.
branding.
Branding. Okay. Branding is a big way to set yourself apart. Like, what makes you different? There's a thousand mini donut companies. There's 1,000 podcasts, right? But what sets you apart? What is it about your branding, about your name, about whatever that makes you different, that makes your business, your company different? And then outsourcing, like you said, you can't be the end all be all. You can't be the single point of failure of your business. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yep. Absolutely. And I know a lot of us, we think of, especially when your idea is just an idea, you're like, oh my God, it's going to cost a lot to have somebody do my branding. It's going to cost a lot to get a financial advisor. It's going to cost a lot to have someone manage my social media. I get it 100%. So that's why you start off as that person. And when I say start off, I don't mean, for your first 3 years. No, once you see that your business has opened and your attention is needed elsewhere, it's now time to outsource whatever that job is.
Right. Right. So figuring out a way to monetize and bring in capital so you can afford to outsource should definitely be in your planning phase, like within
Yes.
your planning steps.
So that's one great thing that you just brought up. So how do we pay for all this, right? That
Right.
was one of the reasons why I never let go of my corporate America job. Not only because it ties into, my overall life, but I look at my corporate America job as my biggest investor because I know no matter what, my normal bills will be paid, which frees the stress of me as an entrepreneur. Like, oh my God, I have to hustle and bustle because I have to make X amount in order to sustain in this business. So I always tell people, like I mentor, I always tell my mentees, hey, do not quit your job and just go out free fall.
Right.
You need to keep your 9 to 5 or whatever hours you work. You need to keep your actual job, and then let this business be a side job until that business is making more than you're making in your 9 to 5. Now, luckily for me, I never got to the point in my career that I had to make a decision because, as I said, I can do both. But there are jobs where you have to make a decision like, okay, either my business is doing extremely well, or my job. And when you come to that crossroad, you have to make a decision.
Yeah. Yep, you do. And I like the way that you put that. You let your business be your biggest investor and not to quit your job. Y'all, the six-figure vet got a confession. I prematurely quit my job after the military once upon a time. And it was the worst decision that I've ever made in my whole life. I understand that you are motivated about stuff. Okay? We all are. Don't Keeping a 9 to 5 until your business can replace your income, not just one time, but twice. Let it lap it. Don't just be like, okay, in my corporate job, I make $3,000 a month, and I just made $3,000 a month this month in my business. It's time to quit. No, you need to make $6,000 a month in your business, because
Amen.
unforeseen things will happen, and you don't realize the stability that having a regular insurance alone for
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is not employed is double than what you're paying when you have a job. So do not I love that you said that and put that forewarning out there. Don't quit your job unless you are at a place within your business where your income from your business is super duper uber superseding your income from your 9 to 5.
And don't just make it 1 month and make that decision. You need to consistently make it.
Yes, consistently. And it's up to you to decide what that consistency look like, whether it's 3
Yes.
months, 6 months, a year, but it needs to be on a consistent basis. Like
Mm-hmm.
your projection for your business needs to be consecutive thing before you go out here quitting your 9 to 5. Um Key, I don't want to hold you too long. Is there any piece of advice that you would give our vets or future vets um prior to exiting or now that they're out? And you can go any direction you want to with that question.
Yeah, absolutely. So my advice to the ones getting out is to plan ahead. If you know, 2 years or a year in advance that you're getting out, start developing your plan. Get a notebook. There's plenty around the ship or at your base. Get a notebook and start writing down your plan. If you're okay with just getting out with finding a job, or hey, I really wanted to go to school and get this degree, or hey, I want to start this business. Whatever those things are, or it could be a combination of the three. You need to write them down and start a plan. How do I start with, okay, I need to apply to get into these schools if I want to go to college? Or if I want this job, what certifications do I need? What can I get while I'm still in the Navy that can help me get this job? Develop a plan for the ones that are out and who are now entrepreneurs. Do not hold on to the business if it has outgrown you. That is my biggest piece of advice. What does that mean? For example, I'm not one to start a business and hold on to it forever. I have a goal that I set from day one that, hey, if this business makes X amount or if it grows to be this big, I'm going to now set it for sale, right? And I sell them. I don't start businesses and hold on to them. I sell them. I am a serial entrepreneur, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you outgrow this business or this business outgrows you and you can monetize off of it, sell it. Those are my two biggest pieces of advice.
Make a plan to sell, y'all. Make a plan and sell. Key, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your journey with us. I appreciate you. I definitely want to give you your flowers. Thank you so much for your service and what you're doing for the community. Where can the people reach you at?
So my social media handles on Instagram, my personal is extraordinary key, extraordinary.key, K-E. My page is open, so just request me. I'll accept you. Um, for the business page, we are at the THE Doughnut, DOUGHNUT Effect, EFFECT. Follow us, give me a shout out, let me know you heard the episode, and if you have any questions, reach out.
If you are a veteran, active duty service member, or civilian that is currently in a mental health crisis or suffers from mental health issues, please dial 988. Trained crisis responders are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the calls are completely confidential. Again, that number is 988. Veterans and service members, press 1. You don't have to suffer in silence.